Hey there, I'm Jackie Ferris. This week on the 302, we are at Rockwood checking out their Christmas exhibit, The New Victorians, that uses so many authentic and original pieces you'd think you're taking a walk through time. Get ready to be inspired in some of your own holiday decorating. The 302 is headed your way. Hey everybody, we are at Rockwood and we're talking about their Christmas exhibit called The New Victorians. And I'm joined by Kristen Matulowicz to talk a little bit about it. First of all, welcome to the staff at Rockwood. You just joined, is that right?
Yeah, I started back in February.
Back in February. That's almost a year. This is the first time on the 302 with Rockwood. And what an amazing exhibit to be talking about. I mean, so gorgeous. Talk to me about the New Victorians and why you decided to name it that.
Yeah, so what we're doing here is we decided to go with the name The New Victorians because all of our holiday decorations this year are inspired by Christmas decorating that started in the Victorian period and became popular.
And it really is lovely when you walk into, now this is the main living room, is that right?
Yeah, this is the drawing room.
The drawing room. And you see a lot of things that just really like take you back to that moment in time. Like, you know, the presents and the dolls. And the dolls are original to the collection, right?
Yeah, so the dolls here are original to the collection that we've worked into all of our presents, including some of them we actually have pictures of one of the Bringhurst children, Mary, with one of the dolls.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking about the one that is behind me on the couch here.
Yes.
But you have several of them. Can you tell me a little bit about the dolls themselves?
Yeah, so all of the dolls are ranging from different time periods in the Bringhurst. Some of them that we have belonged to the final owner of the mansion, Nancy, who was Mary's niece. Mm-hmm. Some of them belong to Mary. She was an avid doll collector as well.
Yeah. Now, in between us is this gorgeous Christmas tree. Can we talk a little bit about the theme itself? Is this something that you would see back in the day?
It is inspired by back in the day and then just turned up. Mm-hmm. So what ends up happening is in the Victorian period, specifically 1848, Queen Victoria and Prince Albert actually release an image of themselves and their 9 children decorating a Christmas tree. And that's believed to be one of the first images of a decorated Christmas tree in England, which then highly influences the US. And so what we wanted to do is use some of those types of decorations and then just reimagine it and turn it up for the modern era. So on this tree, we tried to link back to traditional glass decorations with the bulbs. Some of those are glass on here, as well as really lean into the handcrafting that was being done in the Victorian period with individualized paper ornaments. We interpreted it with some origami to hint at the influence of the East ending in the Victorian period, really starting in the Victorian period, as well as fans were a popular item and using natural elements such as feathers, and here we've used ostrich feathers, which were really popular, as well as roses, to link back to the idea that they did grow roses here at Rockwood.
Absolutely, so it all comes together. I really enjoy the feather aspect of it, and I know that you guys have a lot of feathers because the ladies love their hats.
Yes. Yeah, we really wanted to bring in these symbols and these images that you kind of associate with the Victorian period, and one of them being the feathers. We even have here in the main hall one of the portraits of Mary that's hanging has her in a massive feather hat.
So the drawing room is set up for Christmas Day, but what was Christmas Day like in the Victorian age?
Yeah, in the Victorian age, it was a little bit more simple than it is today. We definitely have a much more broad gift-giving practice, but we do start to have the origins of it. So giving gifts was a really important aspect of the Victorian period. We have records here specifically from the older sister, Bessie, about giving books. That was very popular in this period. So you would have had less presents than you do have today, but you still would have had the gathering around the Christmas tree, opening presents. Sometimes they were opened on Christmas Eve as opposed to Christmas morning, but you start to have really that sentiment of family time together.
I know a lot of families do like one present on Christmas Eve and then everything on Christmas morning. So it's kind of interesting to see, how those traditions, so early on still apply to what's happening in today's society.
Yeah, so much of what we do today for Christmas starts in the Victorian period.
And you mentioned the picture. I guess everybody wanted a Christmas tree after seeing that picture, right?
Yeah, Queen Victoria was kind of the original Instagram girl, in that she really was interested in the availability of photography. And so she would photograph the Christmas tree with her family at home. She would photograph her and her husband in their latest fashion, and they would make what were called cartavistes, which are sort of tiny photos and etchings that you would swap with friends and kind of collect them like you would baseball cards today.
Well, speaking of photographs, I guess we know it as a Viewmaster, but there is an image with goggle. What is that all about?
Yeah, so that's a stereoscope. We have two of them presently on display that are part of our collection here. And what would happen was, as photography was advancing and travel was becoming big, people would create images, and they're sort of dual images that are slightly different angle, and when you look at them through the stereoscope, it becomes a 3D image.
And it kind of moves. Now, before we go, because we want to go to the dining room next, but before we go, I want to ask you about the cute little tea sets under the tree.
Yes, so the cute little tea set is actually a children's tea set that is part of our collection. So we wanted to make sure that we worked it out as a sample of some of the kinds of presents that people would receive.
It really is. You really did an amazing job.
Thank you.
And we're going to see so much more when we return.
I'm Laura Fervell. I'm the curator at the Biggs Museum of American Art in Dover, Delaware, and I love the arts on the 302.
Welcome back. We have moved into the dining room, and it is so glamorous in here, Kristen. I'm getting a lot of ideas. My husband is going to be like, no, but I'm all for it.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about the draping here. This is amazing.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite pieces in our decorations this year. This sort of drapery comes from the Victorian period. Maybe not necessarily this grand, but again, we're new Victorians. We're
That's right.
kind of taking it to the next level. But we do have, coming from the Victorian period, the use of ribbon in Christmas decorating. Everything we think of with Christmas ribbon is going to come from the Victorian period because of the manufacturing. It was no longer specifically for the wealthy, and so you start using a lot of these fabrics and textiles, and we really wanted to allude to that. We would get in the Victorian period people taking ribbon and hanging them from chandeliers, hanging them from lights, and so we just wanted to lean in with that.
Absolutely, and draping down to this beautiful place setting. Talk to me a little bit about, the dishes. I guess these are some of your favorites in the collection.
Yes, these are some of my favorites. These are Wedgwood plates. I personally like them just because of that nice jewel tone green color. I wanted to work them into this room to give us a cool palette, kind of harkening back to this peacock idea that was happening in the Victorian period as part of the aesthetic movement, and this idea of just beauty for the sake of being beautiful. And peacocks became very symbolic, and peacocks have a long history being related to formal dining, including through the Victorian period. So this room has peacock feathers, peacock accents, and I wanted to lean in with our plates as well.
It really is beautiful. And just to remind folks, the majority of what you see is original to the family, to one of the many families, I guess 3 families that you know of that lived here, right?
Yeah, we're very lucky here at Rockwood in that about 95% of what you're going to see in the house is original to the families that lived here, which is really rare for historic houses. Normally you're looking between 7 and 15%, but almost everything is original, down to the tablecloths and the textiles that you'll see throughout the house. And that's because the house was originally built by a man named Joseph Shipley. When he died, it ends up going to his nephew, and his nephew's family inherits the house and lives here for over 70 years. And the final sibling who was alive from the Bringhurst family when they moved in lived to be 100 years old, and she herself was interested in family history. So she kept records of what they were buying, where it came from, who they eventually sold things to, and we were able to then continue collecting and finding some of our missing objects.
I know a bunch of stuff just came back over the last couple of years. Mostly
Yes.
furniture though, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of furniture pieces that have come in. We've had a couple artworks, a couple paintings, but it's mostly going to be furniture and textiles.
So let's talk a little bit about the trees. I mean, it's so beautiful. You mentioned the peacock theme. You can really see it in the colors, but there are a lot of handmade items on this tree as well.
Yeah, so all of our handmade items are actually a craft that people can do throughout the month of December here at Rockwood. We have 3 activities that are free to the public with admission, which admission is free the whole month of December, where they can make Victorian-inspired ornaments such as the ones on these trees. You can also make origami stars, and you can make sort of paper flowers. And if you leave them behind, we will be continually incorporating them into our decorations here at Rockwood.
Because that's exactly what the Victorians would do. They would make their own. Would they use like colored paper and would that be like a family thing, or did the Bringhurst do that?
We do have some ornaments that were made by the Bringhurst family members currently on display in our Brittle Beauty collection. And they would be doing things like collaging using images from magazines. They would be hand making and hand sewing objects, sometimes making paper and building things out of that. But it was a lot of layers, a lot of textures, and a lot of colors.
Now, one thing that anybody can do is use one of these crackers. So, and I didn't realize that crackers started out in the Victorian age.
Yeah, crackers become really popular in the Victorian period, particularly in England, and come over. A lot of what's happening in the U.S. during this period is going to be inspired by British culture. And one of them is going to be the Christmas cracker. Typically, they would be placed on the china at your place settings. And then before your big meal, you would crack them open. Inside is a paper crown, a joke, sometimes a little trinket present, or confetti. And it would just be a fun way to have fun and play at the dinner table.
Absolutely. And when we look at the way it's set, I know you have diaries and all kinds of things. Did you get any kind of indication of is there a certain way that they liked their tables done? Were they very high tea about it, or how did they do it?
Yes, here at Rockwood, the Bringhursts were very passionate about extremely formal dinner settings. They maintained a butler and staff service in order to be fully served throughout dinner. So for our table setting here, we have a full formal set. This is one of the things that the eldest daughter, Bessie, actually wrote about missing during World War I when she was in Northern Ireland. And they were not doing a full formal dinner service.
And her influence is seen throughout the house. And we're going to talk more about that when we return.
I'm DJ Fazik with Coastal Cruises, and we love cruising with the 302.
Welcome back. We are at Rockwood, and we're talking about their Christmas exhibit, The New Victorians. I'm joined by Kristen Matulowicz. Now, Kristen, we are in the morning room. No, would you come here in the morning? Is that why they call it, because of the sunlight? Or?
Yep, that's exactly right. So the morning room was simply an east-facing room that had the best sunlight in the morning. Typically, this would be a room that was really sort of the woman of the house's domain. It would sort of work as her office. She would meet people, small parties, have tea after the morning. It was a common room to eat breakfast in. What's so fun about this room in particular here at Rockwood is that when Joseph Shipley built this house, he wasn't married, and so there were no women of the house, and he chose to build a morning room and still use it that way because of his love of nature and the gardens.
No, it really is. You have so many beautiful gardens, so it makes perfect sense. But this is set up as the most traditional Christmas, is that right?
Yes. So here in the morning room, this is our most traditional Victorian Christmas. As you look through the room, there's a lot of garlands. Many of these are going to be hung inspired by the Victorian period. So there is sort of ivy and garlands in the chandeliers, hanging from windows, over the mantelpiece, and it's a little, I'm going to say a little more demure in here.
Absolutely, and the tree it's really lovely with the garlands. Tell me a little bit about the tree and the objects on it.
The tree here in the morning room is all collection objects that were stable enough to go on display. So everything from the different color ball garlands, the handmade ornaments, we have German glass ornaments coming directly out of the early Victorian period, are all going to be on display in this tree and in some of the garlands and wreaths in this room.
So I know that you take great care to preserve everything, but whenever it's time to put things out and change things up, I mean, how do you decide when something is stable enough to hang on a tree that hopefully no visitor is like touching or whatever, you know, or light doesn't hit it in the wrong way, or how do you determine it?
Yeah, so in this room, one of the things we've done is we've tried to set this tree back a little bit, make it a little bit harder for people to reach for it, which will help us preserve it. But some of the ways that we look about deciding what goes up on this tree is with our beaded ornaments. We check to make sure that none of the metal or string is breaking at all, that none of the beads are loose or broken. And for the very few paper objects we have on this tree, we're looking to make sure that the paper is still fully colored, it's fully intact. And the ones that weren't, that are still very pretty, we have on display in our Brittle Beauty exhibition on the other side of the museum.
So that's like an added bonus if you want to go and check it out. You want to go on the other side. But I have to ask you about this couch. I know in an earlier segment we talked about how a lot of the objects that belong to the Bringhurst and the Shipley family have been coming back over the years, and this is one of them, and it's really lovely.
Yeah, this particular couch just recently came back to us in the last couple of years. It's been newly accessioned and was just put out in this room at the end of last year for the very first time. We've been lucky enough that many of the family members have stayed collected with the museum, and we're getting those items back with us now.
It really is lovely. So we've been on the first floor, but I know that when people come to visit, they can go upstairs. So give us a little preview. What are we going to see in the upstairs bedrooms?
Throughout the different upstairs bedrooms, they've all been decorated lightly, minus Edward's bedroom. We have it set up to be his childhood bedroom, and it is full of more toys from our collection, small trees, as well as we did a large sort of ribbon present that kind of comes out of this period. It comes a little bit more from international trade with places like Scandinavia and Germany, where you would get a ribbon sort of in your bag and you would follow the ribbon through the room or through the house to find your presents.
Oh, that's amazing.
So those are set up as well.
Absolutely, and the one thing that you can't miss when you go into that room, if you can get to that space, I know sometimes you guys cordon things off, is the underside of the canopy. Can you tell us about that?
So the underside of the canopy in the Bringhurst bedroom is a mural of a bunch of cherubs or small angels that is original to the bed. We don't know a lot of details of who the people are, But if you take a close look, they are individual enough that we can tell that they're portraits and not just symbols. And it was bought like that by the Bringhursts.
That really is amazing. That's another detail about I didn't know about it. I mean, I love this portraits. Amazing. Who would have known? My favorite, one of my favorites, is the staircase on the way up. There's all those beautiful paintings that just really give you a sense of history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so on our main staircase right now, the 3 large images you're going to see are 3 of the Bringhurst siblings that were just very influential to the look and care of Rockwood. So it's going to be Bessie, the eldest daughter. It's going to be Mary, the second eldest daughter who lived to 100 in this house, and then her younger brother, Edward V.
Fantastic. Well, the house looks beautiful. You really outdid yourself.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for sharing it with us, and we hope that you have a wonderful holiday.
Thanks, you too.
We'll be right back. Are you getting a little inspiration from these Victorian decorations? I know I am. If you come down and check it out, make sure you snap a picture and share it with us on Facebook. Now, here are some other things you might want to check out. For more information on the new Victorians or any of the amazing exhibits and events here at Rockwood, you can visit rockwood.org. That'll do it for this week's episode of the 302. Make sure you follow us on Facebook to get some behind-the-scenes content you're just not going to get anywhere else. We're going to leave you now with some beauty shots of the grounds here at Rockwood. Until next time, I'm Jackie Ferris. Tell them you saw it on the 302.